Let me show you this tweet right here. We have this tweet from Andrew Kaczynski. You know him, you love him. He says, every single county moved further right in New York this year. If it comes down to just a few seats, New York Democrats and backlash to Democratic policies, rule in New York will have cost them the House. So Hochul wins. Zeldin loses. But how many votes did he lose by?
So he lost by about 350. And I told you right before we started that over the last, I think it's 3 years in New York, they've lost over 550,000 people. So if you just look at that math alone, Zeldin had people not moved, but you have to put in a zillion factors because COVID made everybody crazy and everything else. But it's like Zeldin could have won. The fact that he even got it this close and they flipped some of these seats is incredible. Like that guy is the all-star. DeSantis obviously is the starter all-star from this thing. But Zeldin is a close second.
Every single district in New York shifted left. I mean, just one more time. Every single county. Look at that.
Shifted right.
Shifted right. Shifted from the left to the right.
It's all one thing when you look at it from space, man. Go far enough left and you end up on the right.
But you mentioned 550,000 people. I remember covering that story. Hundreds of thousands from Manhattan left. And who would be more likely to leave? People who want freedom. Where did they go? Across the United States, they went to Florida first, Texas second, and what do we see? Both of them became more red. They and Georgia as well. I don't know about Georgia; people moved there, but Kemp defeated Abrams handily. DeSantis gets this double-digit win, and everyone says things like he's a good leader, he had good messaging, he cleaned up the voting laws and rules. All true, but also consider all the political refugees who went there and wanted to vote for him. They moved there for him. He attracted these people. So there's some good and there's some bad. And the bad is, I was worried about this, that if people were going to be fleeing, it would make red areas redder. And then you leave New York, it becomes bluer.
In some respects, though, that's how this whole thing was set up to be, right? I mean, the idea of federalism, that the states will be extremely different experiments of democracy and you will go somewhere that is in line with your values. That's really how it was supposed to be. If New York... Putting even New York aside, because they tried at least. Cali it's just never coming back. But if that's what they want, I still have some friends that live there, but it's like, if that's what you want, I don't know what makes us united anymore. And unfortunately, the blue states will always encroach on the red states. Florida doesn't want anything from a blue state.
Right.
The blue states will want the tax money and all the resources of the functional red states. That's what I think the next frontier is.
But on the other hand, we have to understand Florida was a purple I think was a purple
not
state.
Anymore,
now is a red state.
Anymore,
but Ron DeSantis barely won his first time around.
30,000 votes.
So
it was
extremely close. And now this larger transition from New Yorkers to Florida, I think, has solidified Florida as a red state.
I think there's like a...
But it's not what they want. Sorry.
It's not what you want.
You said if that's what they want in California, but it's not. What's happening is with the way their election system works, the more they weaken it, now they want to allow non-citizens to vote.
Yeah.
A weakened election system means that for all of the selfish, disinterested voters, they negate the patriotic, hardworking American vote. So for every one of you out there who knows what's going on, wants energy policy fixed, wants economic policy fixed, doesn't want our borders open, your vote is negated by some guy who's playing Grand Theft Auto in his house when he hears a knock on the door, and someone walks up and says, couldn't help but notice that you got your mail today. See that? That's a ballot. Did you fill it out? And the guy says, I don't know, man. I don't care. Look, just fill it out. It'll take 10 seconds, and then I'll leave. And the guy goes, okay, sure. What am I doing? Democrat? Okay, here you go, man. Well, that one person who didn't care canceled your vote.
Even kind of, but what's happening is they're voting for people to go do what you think they're going to do, and then they end up not doing it because they get bribed. Like this idea that we're in the best system and this is the way it's supposed to be, I think is really messing with people. People think that they're in this is it. We got there. I don't think we need, we only built a Republican, representative house because we needed to, because people couldn't represent themselves. They didn't have telephones. Now, 700,000 people could vote yay or nay on a vote.
But we've talked about that. That's direct democracy, and that doesn't work.
Direct republicanism. We need a republic that's direct to the people, so that we don't have these middlemen that are getting bought out by corporations.
Well, in essence, you want localism and you want federalism. So I agree with you, actually, that it's not that, look, first off, California has basically the most Republicans in the entire country just because of the size of the state. So it's not that all of these people want what they're getting there. I'll word it a little bit differently. I would say at some point, you got to just see what day it is, what time it is, and you got to get going. And to me, if you are a freedom-loving person who wants to own a business and feel safe and not have gender queer jam down your kid's throat and everything else, get the hell out of Cali. It's as simple as that. It really is.
To address what Ian was saying, I think you make an interesting point, though. So let's look at this map right here of New York, right? These counties. They all shifted towards the Republican Party. If you didn't need to send your votes from, say, Utica to the Secretary of State or whatever to determine which individual would run the state, but instead you in Utica voted for what you wanted, then I guess the idea you're saying is that you're more likely to have your voice heard as an individual.
Every time it would be heard.
But it's not direct democracy. It's the district gets a vote, basically. So if there's a member of Congress representing a district, instead, the district does a vote per issue or something like that.
Yeah, so everyone in the district would vote yes or no, and then the district would be decided by that vote. That would go to the Senate, basically.
So Congress would be passing a bill, and then the vote would go out to everyone to see online, and then you'd vote in your district, and your district would get a vote based on region. But here's the point.
Yeah.
There's some pros and there's cons in this concept. I mean, for one, it still ultimately comes down to ignorant people who don't care will end up voting.
Right.
But counterpoint, it would require the ballot harvesters to go out 7 times a week to try and win these votes, and they wouldn't be able to do that.
Well, that's one of the reasons that the ballot harvesting works, because they're going to blue cities. Blue cities, these are Democrats who want more control. They want more government in their lives. It's a lot harder to do it. You're going to go out to Utica and you're going to go to Cornell and wander around in the freezing cold and try to get all these people. People just aren't going to do it.
That's the Republican disadvantage.
But really think about that. We're staring at a freaking completely red map with one little tiny dot of blue that people probably can't even see if they're on their phone. And that is now governed by a Democrat. Does that really make sense?
Does
that really make
weird.
sense?
Yep.
Yeah. A Democrat who was one of the, I would say, worst 3, her, Newsom, and Whitmer, one of the worst 3 when it came to lockdowns and everything else. And the week before in the debate, she freaking said she would do it all again. And these people voted for her. So at some point, if you're a sane person there, you got to go, all right, maybe we got to wrap up shop.
So here's the challenge. You leave New York, and I've said get out of the cities, go to the middle of nowhere, get some chickens, right? You leave New York, which makes it, you're basically clearing all obstacles for these people to solidify these rules and make them crazier and worse. You leave, they will never lose again. You go to Florida, you protect Florida. Florida and Texas seem to be doing okay. But all the other states are now suffering and moving further and further towards authoritarianism.
No, you might have to cede some ground. I think we might be at that place.
All right, here's what we do. Everyone in Florida have a bunch of kids. Just start cranking them out, 10 babies per family. Then, 18 years, we send those kids out all across the country, start colonizing blue cities.
Listen, I just had 2 kids. They're never leaving. They're never leaving Florida. These kids are going to, and I'm being buried in Florida. I want to be clear about that. Oh, they're going to be homeschooled, or we'll figure out some pod thing. Although, that being said, Florida actually has pretty damn good schools because of Mr. DeSantis and his Don't Say Gay, and they booted all that stuff out of the schools. So there actually are pretty good public schools in Florida. I don't know what we'll do exactly, but I would be less concerned about that in Florida, which was the joke, because Florida has no
phones,
state income
no
tax.
Yeah.
No, they'll do that too.
And
Give them a chance.
DeSantis also got involved in local school board elections and actually gave out recommendations for candidates that he wanted to win, which made a big impact, which is affecting the schools down there.
And nobody's going to leave. Hannah Navarro from The View, she lives in Miami. She complains every day, and she's not going to get out.
Oh, you heard what she said about DeSantis, right? That he gamed the system?
Gamed the system.
By arresting people committing fraud.
Yeah. She said, and voter IDs. She seems to think that black people can't get IDs. Yeah. I know a lot of black people. Every single one of them has
But when
an
she
ID.
was like, he gamed the system. He arrested people who committed fraud and then created police. It's like, what do you think you're saying to people right now?
Yeah.
I really want to bump into her at a restaurant one day. She's on my short list of people that I would say something really crazy.
You might
to.
in Florida. All the politicians in Florida go to Florida. AOC loves Florida. She vacations down in Miami all the time.
She had her own people masked up in New York, and she went to that freaking drag bar in Miami Beach, and then they paraded her around like she was a queen. Yeah. Like, how vile.
Oh, man.
Another example of why I want to get rid of the House of Representatives. I can't stand these faux celebrities getting popularity contested into a bribery state. It's so annoying.
I don't
know if I agree with the get rid of the House of Reps, but I do agree that just because we created this system, which has been one of the best so far, or if not the best, it doesn't mean we stop here. You know what I mean? Like there's always got to be a way to do things better, to improve things.
You're right, and I shouldn't say get rid of the House. That's not my intention is to transition to a better form of representation, personal representation.
Well, what if you just completely handicap the federal government? Would that basically do it for you? Short of California, because
I'm happy.
Right? Like that's what we should all be going for. That way, as you said, you move to Florida. You move down here, I move to Florida. We're all making our choices. And then the only issue then, if the federal government is not that powerful, is that the blue states don't somehow encroach on the red states.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.